Xenoblade Chronicles X is getting a second chance at life after previously being stuck on the Wii U system for well almost a decade. Now, with the release of the definitive edition in the last year of the Switch's life, this is a second chance, 10 years in the making, and I couldn't be more here for it. Hello everyone, I am John A. Douglas, aka SubOptimalJohn. I'm the author of the Age of Adventures book series, and I'm going to talk today about Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, which I went and bought on opening day and subsequently have started streaming on this channel. It is an absolute delight to finally have this game and the entire Xenoblade series on the Switch. The entire series all in one go. You'll love to see it. And let's go ahead and talk about what made this so special and what's making this definitive edition really help this game shine in a way that it didn't have a chance to before. Xenoblade Chronicles X was a game that many who played it considered it an unheralded gem. I am certainly in that camp, although at the time I did not play much of it. A lot of life got in the way, and a lot of gaming time, as it relates to my personal disposable time, ended up not being as much available, and a lot of it went towards like the creation of my books, which you see over here in the corner of my screen with every video. However, the game did leave a lasting impression, and it was something special to those who did finish it. However, being stuck on the Wii U definitely hampered it. The Wii U, unfortunately, was not a great successor to the Wii, which was a massive success for Nintendo at the time. The Wii U, although a bit of a favorite for me, and it was a system that I genuinely liked, and it had a lot of games that I did actually enjoy on it, Xenoblade Chronicles X being one of them. It did suffer a little bit from being out of sync with the timeline of the games. It was not a direct sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles on the original Wii, and it didn't have any connection once the series continued with Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and 3 on the Switch. So it got left a little bit behind in the pack for being an original story and in a different setting, and not having any connective tissue other than the Xeno part of the title. But what it did do was carve out an identity of its own. It had an interesting sci-fi space opera setting about the survivors of a destroyed Earth crash landing on a world named Mira, full of massive animals, alien life forms, as well as alien life just trying to destroy them no matter where they went. One of the things the Xenoblade games have done very well is the exploration and the world. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 on the original Wii was an absolute technical marvel because it had such an expansive and large world to explore that seemed to defy the limitations of that system's hardware at the time. It also had an interesting story, memorable characters that were also a little memeable, and it managed to craft itself a bit of a cult following. Sadly, the Wii U was not as successful, and by extension, Xenoblade Chronicles X was not as successive either. It was not until the Switch, where Xenoblade Chronicles 2, that the series finally blew up, but as it went on to DLCs and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and 3, it ended up becoming a massive IP for Nintendo, but the bastard stepchild of the entire series got left behind. In previous interviews, the director Monolith Soft said that it would have been cost prohibitive and lengthy and expensive and very difficult to port Xenoblade Chronicles from the Wii U hardware over to the Switch hardware, and he didn't think that at the time that Nintendo would be willing to put forth the actual effort or the time and money into doing that. We thankfully somehow got knocked into the right timeline where this was possible, and Xenoblade Chronicles X is now on the Switch. Now an entirely new generation of Xenoblade fans and Switch players can get a second chance to enjoy this game with all of its rough edges smoothed over, with a lot more quality of life improvements that take this game from a 6 to 7 on the Wii U to a 9 and a 10 on the Switch. First off, it must be said that this game, graphically speaking, looks gorgeous. And this was true at the time that it came out. Now, at the time when this game was on the Wii U, in order to graphically enjoy it at its most optimized form, you had to download several graphics booster packs off the Wii U store, and that was a little bit cumbersome. It especially did not help that it was almost 9 gigs worth of data on your itty bitty Wii U hard drive, and unless you had the deluxe 32-bit version, your entire hard drive might have been taken up by these booster packs. This helped with a lot of graphical touches, more monsters on screen at once, and a lot of the visual noise that goes on with the game, some of which was not very helpful at the time. On the Wii U, this game has suffered from a few technical issues and quality of life issues that have been thankfully smoothed over. Graphically speaking, this is so optimized, it's not even funny. It's amazing that it not only runs on the Switch, and with a less amount of hard drive space. This game is technically smaller than it was on the Wii U, which is an amazing technological feat, or at least it seems to me. I'm a bit of a boomer with technology. But look, this game graphically has aged very well. There are some improvements where they have come through and made the character models look a little more in line with the Xenoblade proper series so that it feels like the same series, but it hasn't lost its own identity. The sound mixing on the original was a little bit garbo too. The sound mixing was, how do I put this, way too loud. You had music that was much louder than the dialogue, and on the Wii U, there was no way to change this. It was very difficult. There was a lot of text that was very small and hard to read. The tutorials were much more difficult to get through, and a lot of the systems in the battles and augments, everything in and around the little things that are baked into the intricate DNA of every Xenoblade game was much more confusing, confounding, and a lot of it you either ignored or went through and played without them, or you had to figure out on your own. I had a strategy guide, and even I had to admit I was not incredibly taken with just how this information was dispensed and given to you. These issues have been smoothed over in the definitive edition. Prompts are easy to see. Systems are very well explained to you. I have not been confused once throughout my early hours playing this game, and my early impressions of this game are very positive. It's grabbing me in a way that it did not grab me beforehand. Originally, one of the big complaints about this game was that the story is a little slow to start, and admittedly that can be somewhat true, but here in Definitive Edition, you don't have as much leveling up that you have to do in order to progress throughout the story, and exploration is thankfully quick and easy and much more manageable. There's fast travel works very well, and the game does kind of lock you out of certain areas until you pass through certain missions to gain access through the world. But once you do, once the game truly opens up, that is when it becomes an absolute joy to play. Make no mistake, the biggest draw of Xenoblade Chronicles X is the gameplay of world exploration and the battle system. This is carrying about 80% of the game, because most of what you're going to be doing is exploring and encountering monsters, doing little side quests, main quests, everything in and around. The story is actually hitting a little bit better, I think, this time around than it did before. Fortunately, all of your travels are accompanied by an absolute 10 out of 10 banger soundtrack. The soundtrack, the OST for this game, it cannot be overstated how amazing it is. Just some incredible tracks. And my favorite is Uncontrollable, which only plays when you fight tyrant monsters, which are overpowered monsters you find in occasional parts of the game. It's a bit of a boss music battle, but there's so many great tracks in this game. They are infectious to listen to. They are absolutely delightful to accompany you, and even when you're just exploring and flying in your Skell, the songs that play absolutely elevate the mood of the game. And they will have some bangers on this soundtrack that they will bury in some sub-menu of a side quest, and you'll hear the song there and nowhere else. It's an amazing, and I cannot recommend listening to it enough because it is absolutely gorgeous. It still does take a few chapters into it to really get its legs. Once you get to about chapter 5, the story starts to take off, and then you become much more invested in this. And that can take however long you choose to focus on main story missions over exploring the world and seeing what you can see. Mostly what you'll find is a lot of enemies that are way too high level for you, and a lot of customization options, and you'll be getting familiar with a lot of the systems and everything that's in and around the gameplay. Once you get used to all these things, the game starts to open up. The biggest draw is the getting your skull, which happens relatively later in the story. First you get one that rolls around, then you get the option to fly, and that's when the world becomes this massive open thing that you feel a sense of accomplishment when you unlock the ability to go anywhere you see in this world. And Xenoblade fans that are used to these big open worlds that you can go anywhere, these massive enemies that you have to fight, these convoluted battle systems that they have to navigate, all these systems in and around Xenoblade to manage. Fans who are already familiar with these games are now going to have a chance to come back and look at this game with fresh eyes, where previously they would have had to go 10 miles out of their way in order to acquire. Now, I'm only a few hours into the game, about 10 total, and I'm still on chapter 3. But as far as first impression goes, this is leaving a much more positive impression on me than it did when I played it the first time around. And the scores from the gaming media, whom I am not a big fan of, are actually reflecting just how great this game was then and how much better it is now. I'll be continuing my playthrough with this game in the coming weeks and months until we finish it all the way, and I hope you will join me at my infrequent times whenever I have a chance to stream for a few hours here and there. Check the live playlist in the channel, and if you want some more information, if you want to see a little bit more of me, my other channel, my main channel, John A. Douglas, is where I cover a lot of books and literary stuff, as well as streaming with independent authors. If you want a game to just sit and get lost with and play without even bothering with a lot of the systems and just leveling up, exploring, and seeing what you can see, this game definitely will scratch that itch, even if it does take us a bit of a time investment to get to the chapters where you get your flying skulls and you can start exploring every inch of the world at large. But unlike a lot of games that artificially bloat out their gameplay with collectathons and climbing towers and all that nonsense, this feels very much earned. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and call the video for today. Thank you for watching. Do the like and subscribe and do all that YouTube stuff that everyone loves, and I will see you next time.